Welcome to Croatia, ladies and gentlemen. All in Crypto here, and today we are going to be doing what we hope is a video to offer you guys some encouragement in regards to the cryptocurrency space more broadly. Now, those of you that watch me regularly on the channel will know that we do daily market updates where we give you our best take on where we think the markets are heading broadly and how crypto finds itself in regards to the kind of ecosystem of markets. And we're very positive in regards to what we think is to come based on predominantly the Fed, the largest central bank in the world, that is, of course, the issuer of the world reserve currency. With them lowering interest rates, we think this sees global liquidity, business cycles, PMI cycles, and the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory, and other cycles out there play out, which mean, in regards to where we are at the moment, that there's a good time generally ahead for markets, and the cutting of interest rates is going to see that come to fruition. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit to start the video off. And then towards the end, we're really going to talk and offer some encouragement in regards to this industry being on the same trajectory as what the internet and the industry that spawned out of that has gone on since its inception. Today, most of the largest companies in the world are internet infrastructure providers or software companies, and I think tomorrow's largest companies are very much going to be crypto orientated, because crypto solves many issues far and beyond just finance simply. So we'll be talking about that towards the end of the video, but again, to go into where I think we are in regards to the markets, we're at this kind of turning point, if you will, with the Fed now signaling and going to cut interest rates. We saw on the back end of the Bank of Japan up in interest rates an unwinding of the carry trade. So the idea is there, the Japanese yen has 0% interest rates on it. People borrowed in yen and took it over to higher yielding currencies and put it in money market funds perhaps, or indeed equities that were giving you a higher return off of that zero mark. So money was free to borrow. Why not put it in something that is giving you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% in regards to potentially annual returns, or in regards to the likes of money market funds offered by other currencies? And on that topic, there's $6.4 trillion in regards to money market funds out there right now that is going to look for a new home. Not all of it, because a lot of it is corporate and people have to hold a certain cash reserve on their balance sheet. Often money market funds are their preferred method in doing that because it's legal for them to do that. But there's a lot of trillions, I would say, money that's going to flow out of those funds back into the markets as that 5% risk-free yield starts to diminish with the Fed lowering interest rates. Also, we've spoke about the ramifications of the Dixie. Now, the Dixie is the dollar versus many other currencies out there. And if you look at every bull market Bitcoin's had, there's been an element of dollar weakness in that. And we think that's fundamentally coming on the back end of the correlation between interest rates and the Dixie, thus the dollar strength. We think that's technically signaled on the Dixie chart. We think that's also signaled in regards to the FX pairs. And of course, a weak dollar typically is going to be tremendous for risk assets, not just the cryptocurrency space, but more broadly. And in regards to crypto specifically, Bitcoin has really just been pulling back since March 2024. There's a number of reasons for this. I think if you look at the Bitcoin 4-year cycle theory and where Bitcoin typically is in and around the time period that we're currently in relation to the halving cycles and the halving taking place, Bitcoin is well further ahead than it typically is. Now, this is obviously due to institutional involvement that, of course, the majority of the altcoins, barring Solana and a few others, haven't benefited from. So the altcoin market very much positioned where it is. We like to teach in our market mastery course phase analysis, which essentially dictates that the markets move in a kind of wave-like motion. Many of you would have seen the Wall Street cheat sheet. You might have studied Weinstein stage analysis. You may have studied Dow theory. You may have also studied Wyckoff's market cycles: accumulation, uptrend, distribution, downtrend. And we think for the altcoin market, which is very much where it should be, given the macro picture which supports it, it's going into an uptrend and will be heading in that direction, along with risk generally. And Bitcoin really having been pulling back since March has just dragged the altcoin market with it, unfortunately. And it's kind of like death by 1,000 cuts, really. You know, a long, slow, drawn out pullback has just seen capitulation in the altcoin market. But the important thing is we are still seeing basing accumulation structure, and typically accumulation is more done by smarter money. Now, I'm not saying retail is all dumb money, but if you look at in sort of public participation in the crypto space, whether that be volume via exchanges, which is still slightly elevated, obviously due to market makers and kind of arbitrage traders, and also liquidity providers, all of this kind of stuff. Wash trading, there's a lot of that goes on in the crypto space now, which sees elevated volume. If you look at metrics like Google searches, for example, me as somebody that makes YouTube content, we do very well. We have some of the most watched content for certain altcoins. In regards to YouTube's 2-point-something billion monthly users, 10, 20, 30, 40,000 views is really nothing in the grand scheme of things. So we ultimately think, okay, the market might be going for a bit of a frustrating time, but it's ultimately a good one. Certainly if you're speculating on the cryptocurrency market at this point, you're involved in it, you're going to be positioned for when what we believe is to come takes place. And I think that is a really exciting prospect. Certainly I have a Patreon. All of my Patreon members are dedicated to the same cause. It's a great place to be, great community of people. Do check the link in the description and look to become a Patreon. So we've covered kind of broadly the markets. We do think when you look at Bitcoin more broadly, and we might throw some charts on the screen, there is a lot of technical reason for the expectations of continuation to the upside, okay? Whether it's that inverse head and shoulders that we have, whether it's a bull flag, we're currently going through that flag, quite a kind of broadening structure, but still very flag-esque, or whether it's potentially a cup and handle in much the same way that the VanEck semiconductor ETF did, or gold is currently doing on a bigger scale, plays out. When you run into a key level of significance, i.e. an all-time high, it's typical that you consolidate around it before pushing up and above it with momentum, which is likely what this pattern is setting us up for. There's a real volatility drop in regards to historic volatility. However, the volatility in Bitcoin is crazy. If you look at this flag that we've been in, you've seen 20% moves to both the up and the downside. Frequently, you can imagine what the small but very significant and to become infinitely more significant altcoin market is doing under that weight. There's great fundamental reasons also to be bullish on this market with institutional involvement. Bitcoin's through the door, Ethereum's through the door, Solana ETFs filed. We now have Hashdex filing for a crypto index with Bitcoin and Ethereum listed thus far until there's more regulatory clarity. However, fundamentally, institutions are coming. There's going to be lots of money that comes into it as a result of that, through things like diversification in regards to portfolio management. And also you have regulatory hurdles to be overcome. Now, there's an election going on. I think both parties are trying to appeal to the crypto voter. In my own opinion, we're not trying to stir up any kind of political agenda here, but I think Trump is significantly more bullish for the industry than Harris. However, they both seem rather a lot more friendly perhaps in the previous regime than people would have played out. Also, on the topic of Trump, he's talking about how he wants to make Bitcoin mined in America. You've ultimately got to think about what that means for miners, how they're positioned, how the space is generally positioned. There's lots of things that give us confluence in regards to where we think this space is going, and hopefully that offers some encouragement. And do become a subscriber, check in with those daily market updates. We cover this stuff daily and show you it all on the charts. The charts really don't lie. So we could go on, there's more reasons. What I want to do now is really kind of pivot into this industry as a whole. Satoshi solved a number of problems and created Bitcoin, or certainly released, likely working on it long before that, if you believe the Satoshi narrative, sort of released it during the kind of wake of the 2008 financial crisis. In fact, I think it was a Times article was actually published in one of the early transcripts, and Bitcoin was always meant to be an alternative, originally currency to the current monetary system, and it's been nothing short of a success. Basically, all assets is short the currency. There's more fundamental sort of use for them, but they're really just a short currency trade. And Bitcoin is kind of like, it's built for that specific purpose. Now, it was meant as a currency. My personal opinion is it's not going to practically work as a currency. Something like XRP, they're going to use their ledger to facilitate likely a similar version of what we already have, but with the use of a distributed ledger, kind of evolving, if you will, or revolutionizing it, perhaps staving off some of the problems that we see with it, like the debt burden. Who's going to buy all that debt? Well, if you sort of dollarize the world via stablecoins. You can back those stablecoins up with debt. There's a whole thing there. These are just some aspects of how this industry is changing the world, but there's far more. When we look at the dawn of the internet, it didn't just revolutionize information and the freedom of information, which we're now seeing go the other way, certainly in a communist UK, like we're seeing at the moment, a totalitarian UK, a George Orwellian UK. Let's move on from that. But the internet revolutionized far more things than just information. If you think about finance and business, it totally revolutionized and innovated it. If you look at Amazon, that started off as a bookstore, and look at the company that it is today, it revolutionized industry. It changed everything socially, fundamentally, economically, and blockchain offers much the same opportunity. We saw recently Telegram's founder get sort of honeypotted by Macron, allegedly, over in France. And he is working on Toncoin, real dark horse, I believe, for this bull market. Ultimately to create a decentralized social media that is outside the realms of any one government control, in much the same way that Bitcoin is out of the realms of any one central bank and thus open to manipulation as a result of it. We are going to be using decentralized social medias in the future. We're going to be using decentralized finance, decentralized money. We're going to be running the very infrastructure that the internet depends upon, and there's going to be a merging of Web 2 with Web 3 on distributed systems. We see DePIN really come to the forefront with decentralized computing networks, decentralized data storage services, and every which thing in between. Also, when we look at supply chains, when we look at accounting systems, when we look at everything, there is a blockchain element in it, ladies and gentlemen, even in regards to self-driving cars. Now, for those of you that have read Yuval Harari's book, you will know that he spoke about how you could solve economic issues with cars, also eco issues in regards to pollution and things like that, through coming up with a distributed system of kind of car sharing. We're moving towards a self-driving car world. We're moving towards a world where devices speak to one another and generate data in much the same we do on the Internet of Things. There's going to be a blockchain element in all of that. In regards to AI, it's pivotal in regards to the traceability of the data that the AI uses, the kind of restrictions that you can put on the AI. You can run AI on smart contracts, so it is tamper-proof and hack-proof, which is of the utmost importance given the world we're moving towards and how much of a role AI is going to play in that. Also, in regards to AI going and interacting with the real world, just the other day, Coinbase enabled the first ever cryptographic monetary transaction between two AIs. It did that using cryptocurrencies. And if you think about AI's role in the real world, it's ultimately going to need to be able to transact. I'm sure some of you have played games out there like RuneScape or WoW, and you've dealt with the bot issues. You're going to have kind of people arbitraging the world through AI bots, and that's all going to be enabled by things like cryptocurrencies. That's going to be the currency for machines, which is an extremely interesting concept. And there are so many more reasons to expect distributed ledgers to fundamentally change the world. Of course, the biggest one everybody talks about is the financial world, because there's money attached to it. Hundreds of trillions of dollars of value are coming on chain, are going to be transacted, used, stored, tracked, everything in between with distributed ledgers. And some of the distributed ledgers we talk about on this channel are going to enable that. That is an extremely exciting prospect. And we don't talk about the technological revolution that cryptocurrency is enough on this channel. We want to do more of it. We are going to be doing lots of interviews. We are in a very good position in regards to relationships we've built up with many of the largest blockchains out there, and we're going to continue to exploit them in regards to bringing you guys content as a result of it. But even things like identity, you know, that's all going to go on chain. It very much fits a globalist agenda, which is something I'm largely against. I'm more for localized control, if you will, not big government and all of this sort of stuff. But there's not a great deal I can do about that. They're going to use this technology. They're going to enable it. And ultimately, you know, I do believe we're moving towards a world where you're going to see multiple trillion-dollar blockchain projects. And in regards to the old fiat system, I was once at the point of believing that, you know, something like Bitcoin or something like this was going to replace it. I now no longer believe that's going to be the case. I think they're going to essentially evolve the old one. They're going to use distributed ledgers to do that, solve many of the problems that we have with it. When you can solve the issue of liquidity, you no longer need a two-system accounting system. You can essentially just have the one because it's instant. So you don't need both sides of how currency is currently done today. I don't think Bitcoin is ever going to work as a currency. I also am very suspicious in regards to Bitcoin's true story and origin and intent. I ultimately think if you've studied money, you'll know that it's always been manipulated. If you look at the Federal Reserve Act, they originally put it forward. It was the Aldrich Bill. And people were concerned that that would give Wall Street all the power. So they very much played the other side of things and said, okay, let's give government the power and thus the people. And we all know how that went. So they're very good at playing both sides. They're very good. It wouldn't be surprising at all to me if they came up with a savior to perfectly fit the story and the narrative whilst deliberately devaluing their currency, which is only inflating the rich and keeping everybody poor. So there's many topics we can talk about. The two main ones that I wanted to kind of touch on is where the markets are at right now, how it's not a negative picture whatsoever. It might seem fatiguing, but volatility is inherent to the cryptocurrency space. But there's a good time coming ahead of us, certainly in the next year or so. We think this bull market could definitely extend towards the back end of 2025. And in regards to this industry as a whole, it's changing so much in the real world. And we thought we'd do this video. We'd take the opportunity. I'm currently in Croatia, absolutely beautiful country. I'm sure you can see the view behind me. And yeah, so that's it from me, guys. Just a kind of, I guess, encouraging video, if you will, in regards to this market, this industry as a whole. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you all in the next YouTube video.